Welcome to Music at Noon. How are you doing? So, what a September we have had. What happened 2 weeks and a day ago in downtown Sacramento? 2 weeks and 1 day ago. How about 116 degrees in Sacramento? That was September 6th, okay? An all-time high record for Sacramento, okay? What happened 2 days ago in downtown? I'm a weatherman, I have weather equipment. I measured almost an inch of rain, and half of that came in 10 minutes. So, is that September in Sacramento? Well, I think that's probably why we have a few less people today, because the weather has been so unpredictable. But thank you for being here to honor and support our wonderful artists today. We have two artists from the same family. We have a father and son artist today. They call themselves Duo 7. 7, why? I'll let Matthew answer that question for you. I know the answer, but I'll let you think about that. Duo 7. Who are our guests today? We have a guitarist by the name of Matthew Grasso, who has been playing for us for more than 15 years. And he brought his son again today. His son's name is Mian Grasso. And the entire program is going to be a duo program. We have a few standards on the program, but there may be some connections before, in the middle of them, that will be improvised by the artists to make a smooth connection from one piece to the next. They will be starting off with Eric Satie, two famous pieces by Eric Satie. So let's give our guitarists a nice warm welcome. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Great to be here at Westminster Church to give another performance. There's always something kind of very special about playing in this space. I've always enjoyed. So it's great to see a lot of new faces, a lot of close friends and students here. So thanks for coming out. I would say the focus of today's performance is actually on improvisation. We decided, we do some improvisational styles like jazz and Hindustani music and everything in between. Classical music, we don't generally think of as a style that perhaps has great, people have great improvisational skills. Sometimes we think of classical musicians perhaps even being a little stiff in that sense. But if you look back in the history, it certainly is there. Like Bach was a great improviser. There are many stories about how he would get together with the great lutenist Weiss to improvise, and other great stories. Even when you look at a lot of those great piano or violin concertos, usually at the end of the first movement, there is a cadenza in which the soloist shows their stuff without the orchestra. Today, most classical musicians will practice a pre-composed cadenza. Back in the day, performers like Mozart and Paganini, they would actually improvise these cadenzas during their time. So unfortunately, classical music has kind of lost this tradition of improvisation. So we thought today that we would kind of put a little bit of that into our program, or quite a bit actually. If you notice, we played the two Sept pieces. We started with improvisational prelude, and then we had a little intermezzo improvisation between the two movements. And we'll do something similar again here. So next we'll play for you some selections from West Side Story. I think recently there was a remake by Spielberg of the great story. So today we'll be sharing Maria and Somewhere. Thank you. I thought we'd talk a moment about our instruments and a little bit about what we do. This instrument is called extended 7-string guitar. Over 20 years ago, I worked with Greg Byers of Willits, California, a world-renowned luthier, to build a type of prototype. 7-string guitar or multi-string guitars, not exactly new. They've been around essentially for hundreds of years in different cultures. For example, there's the Russian 7-string that's been around for about 200 years. This particular design has a lower bass string and a longer scale length, so there's actually 2 extra frets past the traditional 6 strings there. And there's also a sliding capo that you hear us going with. It enables us to tune the string differently, thus giving tremendous flexibility in terms of making arrangements, compositions, improvisations, and so on. This particular guitar was built by Greg Byers, and this guitar was built by Waylon Carpenter, who's a luthier here in Sacramento area. And I would have to say that Waylon Carpenter probably has contributed greatly to this particular area for constructing these types of guitars. So. The next piece we want to perform for you is an improvisational work of mine called Lucky 7. And it basically is in 2 sections. The first section is kind of free or kind of in a semi-timeless state, or definitely not a fixed meter. And then the second section actually has more distinctive kind of chord progression that actually is set in 7/8 time meter. So I call it Lucky 7. It kind of has influences from a little bit from North Indian music, a little bit, and a little bit from jazz as well, and everything in between. So I hope you enjoy it. Lucky 7. The last piece, we kind of have this funny rule about not practicing the piece, actually. Because when we perform, we want to be kind of completely spontaneous with our ideas and feelings, and we don't want to bring any preconceived kind of notions on stage, other than its kind of basic structure. So we never actually practice this piece until we just play it. So that's kind of one of the beautiful things about it. I've always found there's a type of kind of freedom in that, not feeling kind of restricted to what's necessarily on the page. It's a different experience. I thought maybe we speak just a little bit about what it's like to work together as kind of father and son. I think for me, until childhood, I was just kind of waiting for him to decide for himself whether he wanted to play music. I think at 1 year of age, he could sing pitches back and do all sorts of things like this. So I knew that he had a musical child, but I never wanted to say, you better start playing at 4 or it's too late. So I think by the time he was about 15 or so, he decided for himself that he wanted to do this, and it's really been really wonderful to teach him, almost on a daily basis, and to work together, as kind of like colleagues. And it's kind of a beautiful thing as a parent to be able to have this type of bond, because music is very serious, and it's a very sacred and spiritual thing in our household, and so he's had a chance to soak it all in, and then when he was ready to do it, he did, and here we are. I don't know if you want to say a few words. What is that?
Yeah. So, it's a little loud. Sorry. Yeah. I always kind of loved music. I've always whether it was my dad's music or maybe some heavy metal or rock and roll, whatever it may be. Always loved music one way at some point in my life, and I think a big part of that is growing up with so many different styles and so much music in the house. And then, when I finally made the decision to play, it's been such a wonderful decision, and my dad's been such a great mentor, such a gentle and kind kind of guider. A lot of things, my own issues to work out, and he's been very patient and always been there to support and help, and so I'm very grateful for that.
Thanks, man. Okay, so the next piece we'd like to share with you is a kind of a well-known piece that came out in the 70s and has been remade in many forms. Killing Me Softly with his song, right? Many of you know the tune out there. Originally recorded by Lori Lieberman, and I believe that she was inspired by American Pie, the famous tune. And although she's not really credited with composing the music, but she's credited with having some responsibility or influence into the text itself. It really actually is a kind of an interesting rendition if you haven't heard it. It's worth taking a listen to. A year later, the R&B artist Roberta Flack in '73 gave her version, which I think most people know. And then there's been several others since, and of course there'll be another one here today. So this is our version of Killing Me Softly. And we're kind of playing this more in a jazz style, so thank you. The next piece by Mampu, we're actually going to have to cut from the program. I have a 1:30 class at Sac City I need to try to get to, but we'll play the other two. So the next piece we'll play for you, Hurting Each Other, originally recorded by Ruby and the Romantics in the 60s, was also popularized by the Carpenters in the early 70s. I've always kind of had a bit of a soft spot for some of the Carpenter tunes and the arrangements by Richard Carpenter, so we decided to turn this into a little jazz number as well. So this is Hurting Each Other. Thank you. Okay, so we have one more for you. Just wanted to thank Brad Slocum for inviting us out to perform. It's always great. Thanks, Brad, for having us. Also wanted to announce I got a few CDs for sale if anyone's interested over here on the table afterwards, and love to hear your thoughts after the program if you had time. The last piece, Moksha, was another improvisational work of mine I composed somewhere in the mid-90s. And it kind of reflects my interest with Indian classical music a little bit. There's also some a little bit of Spanish influences in there as well. But this piece has 3 sections, a kind of timeless introduction, a middle section that has all these arpeggios, and then the third section has a 10-beat groove divided 3-3-2-2 that sounds like ba, ba, boom, ba, 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 boom, ba, ba. Anyways, and then we'll conclude with a little coda at the very end there. So here's Moksha. Hope you enjoy it.
The two M&Ms, how sweet they are. M&Ms, delicious. You guys, as usual, elegant, very elegant, creative, expressive. But that's usual. But what's not so usual is father and son following in the same footsteps, both improvising. I don't think a father and son very often would have that kind of bond. Very special. And I think it's getting more special every year. This is the second or third time you've been here, Mian.
Yeah.
And so let's see what happens the next time you're here. Take it to the next level.
Cool.
Yeah. So thank you both, Grasso family. We appreciate that. Next week, we go to the piano trio department. What instruments would that be? Piano trio is piano, violin, cello. And you know who you can see on your program. We have Giamo Chen. We have a pianist, I'm not sure he's played before, Sam Buckelder, and then we have Anita Felix, who's been here a few times in the last few months. Look forward to seeing you then. Have a wonderful weather week. See you then. Bye for now. Forgot to mention, you can take the Grasso family home with you. Come over and buy a CD. They're only $10. They're right over here where I'm standing now. Thank you.
Thank you. Choral Society?
But we're doing a beautiful, a new 2008
Okay.
instead of the repertoire is about as a vocalist. I like it.
Yeah, no, I sing a lot of vocal jazz. I kind of started with singing. Do you know Ralph Hughes?
Yes, Dr. Hughes.
I studied. It was actually one of my first experience singing in general, and also singing choir.
Yes, yeah. He studied the maestro of our choir.